I'm 71 years old, and I'm about to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Everything you think you know about living a good life is probably wrong, and the people who should have warned you about this never did. I grew up in a home where being strong meant being silent. You didn't talk about your feelings. You didn't complain. You just learned how to carry things quietly. My mother was like that. She believed endurance was a virtue, that if you kept going long enough, everything would eventually make sense. As a child, I watched her swallow her words and keep moving. So I did the same. I learned how to smile when something hurt, how to tell myself it wasn't a big deal, how to believe that my needs were something I could deal with later. Nobody ever sat me down and said, "Your feelings matter." So I grew up believing they didn't. And when you live that way long enough, you stop noticing the parts of yourself you're slowly losing. I got married in my early 20s, not because I felt deeply seen or understood, but because it felt like the right thing to do. He was kind, reliable, the kind of man people said would make a good husband. And I believed them. We built a life that looked stable from the outside. A routine, responsibilities, days that followed the same pattern again and again. I told myself this was what adulthood was supposed to feel like. Comfortable, predictable, quiet. But somewhere along the way, quiet turned into empty. There were nights I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, feeling a question rise inside me that I was afraid to ask. Is this it? I didn't say it out loud. I didn't even admit it to myself. Because once you ask that question, you have to be ready for the answer. So I stayed busy. I stayed useful. And I stayed silent. Years passed without asking for permission. One day blended into the next. And before I realized it, I was no longer counting birthdays, only obligations. I woke up early. I made coffee. I handled responsibilities that never seemed to end. And somehow, that became my entire identity. People would ask me what I enjoyed, what I dreamed about, what I wanted, and I wouldn't know how to answer. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I had forgotten how to listen to myself. I stopped noticing my reflection in mirrors, stopped recognizing the woman looking back at me. She seemed familiar, but distant. Like someone I used to know, I told myself I was being ungrateful, that this life was safe, that many people would be thankful for what I had. So I pushed the discomfort down, smiled when expected, and kept going. But inside, something was slowly disappearing, and I didn't know how to stop it. The first sign didn't feel dramatic. It was just exhaustion, the kind that sleep doesn't fix. I told myself I was getting older, that this was normal, that everyone feels tired eventually. Then came the headaches, the dizziness, moments where my body felt unfamiliar, like it was quietly trying to tell me something. I ignored it. Of course I did. There was always something more important, someone else's needs, another responsibility waiting, until one morning, I couldn't stand up without the room spinning. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and fear. I remember sitting in that cold waiting room, watching strangers stare at the floor, each of us carrying something unspoken. Doctors asked questions. I answered automatically, but inside, a single thought kept repeating itself. What if this is my body asking me to stop? When they called my name, I felt small, older than I had ever felt before. And for the first time in years, I was afraid. They don't tell you the truth all at once. Doctors soften it. They use calm voices and careful words. But you hear it anyway. Your heart, your blood pressure, your lifestyle, each sentence felt like a small crack in the life I thought I had. I remember nodding, pretending I understood. But all I could think was, how long have I been ignoring myself? They asked about stress. about work, about sleep. I laughed because the honest answer was simple. I never rested. Rest always felt like something I had to earn, like a luxury I couldn't afford. Then the doctor looked at me differently, not professionally, humanly, and said, "You were very lucky." Lucky. That word stayed with me because lying there, listening to machines breathe for me, I didn't feel lucky. I felt exposed, stripped of excuses, stripped of the future I assumed was guaranteed. That night, alone in a hospital bed, I stared at the ceiling and asked myself a question I had avoided my entire life. If this ends tonight, was it worth it? And I didn't like the answer. Hospitals are quiet at night, not peaceful, just empty. The kind of silence that forces you to listen to yourself. No meetings, no phone calls, no distractions. Just you and the life you built. I replayed everything. The mornings I rushed through, the dinners I skipped, the weekends I spent catching up instead of living. I thought about my kids, how often I said, "Not now." How often work felt more urgent than love. I thought about my parents, all the calls I meant to return, all the visits I postponed, and then a terrifying realization hit me. I had been planning to live later when things slowed down, later when I felt secure, later when I finally had permission. But lying there, with machines keeping me alive, I understood something painful. Later is not a promise. It's a gamble, and I had been betting my entire life on it. That night, I made a decision. Not a dramatic one, not a loud one. A quiet promise. If I walked out of that hospital, I would stop living on autopilot. I would stop confusing being busy with being important. I would stop postponing the parts of life that actually mattered. That decision didn't change everything overnight, but it changed the direction. And sometimes that's all it takes. I walked out of the hospital slowly, not because I was weak, but because I was awake. The world looked the same, but I wasn't. The air felt different. Time felt louder. I noticed things I used to rush past. Sunlight, silence, breathing. Nothing dramatic happened that day, but something ended. The lie that I had unlimited time. I didn't change my life overnight. I changed my mornings, my evenings, my priorities. I called people back. I left work earlier. I said no more often. And yes, when it mattered, the world didn't reward me for this, but my body did. My mind did, and slowly, so did my heart. I stopped chasing success because I realized it was never chasing me. I started chasing moments, conversations, laughter, presence. These don't show up on resumes, but they stay with you. I don't know how much time I have left. No one does, but I know this. I'm finally living inside my life, not postponing it. If you're listening to this, you still have time, but not forever. Don't wait. Start now.